Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Kizzy and today I'm going to be talking about exploding books. Not really. I'm going to be talking about 5 books that if I do not read them within the next year, they will be self-destructing, aka being donated to a charity shop. I am really bad with keeping books that I didn't necessarily enjoy reading in the first place, wouldn't necessarily read again, and haven't read in a very long time. I've had them for years. So a few of these books, I think I've had some of these books for like 5 years and I still haven't read them. And it's about time that I do. So this is just to kind of give me a little bit of an oomph on the whole reading timescale, shimming them up the TBR. And I've seen quite a few videos of people doing this and I think it's just fun and it will give me a kick up the, you know. Getting into the video. The first book that I have is one that I'm actually much more interested in now than I was or have been ever, because it's by an author that I studied last term at university. I never studied her work before and that's kind of sparked an interest. It's also on a topic that I'm much more interested in now. I like fairy tales, I find them really interesting and I've studied them quite a lot, like chosen them as an essay topics quite a lot to do. So this is Angela Carter's book of fairy tales. She's quite a feminist or kind of revisionist writer who just adds unique twists to traditional works. I think this will be much funner, or I'm much more intrigued by this than I was previously. I know it was on a TBR I think I had in the summer and I didn't get anywhere. As you can see, I'm still on part 1. But this is a collection of short stories. There are quite a lot in here. If I show you the contents page, that's the first page. And there's all those pages. And all those pages. So there's quite a lot of little stories in here. It is just under 500 pages, just over 450 pages. And the writing is quite dense. So it's quite a chunky little boy. But it does have these illustrations throughout it that kind of give fairy tale-ness. And some of the stories are very short, some of them are much longer. So I would really like to read this, at least start reading it. Maybe like, I don't know if it's one I would sit down and read like across a week, but maybe I would sit down, read a few stories, put it down, read a few stories, that kind of thing. So I want to at least start reading it, but at least get 50% of the way through by the end of the year from this day on. Then I'll count that as a win. But I am definitely much more intrigued and the cover is very lovely. So I would be very sad. Most of these books I would be sad to get rid of because they just look so nice. But I would be sad to get rid of this because it is a lovely cover and it's just, I think, a nice book. So I don't want to get rid of this, which will make me read it. The next book I have is one I've actually read the majority of, but it's chunky, so that's still I've read a lot of it, but it's still, I'm currently there. Like, I've read this much and I haven't read this much, so I need to finish it basically. But I'm 98% sure that I don't remember any of the start of it, even though I read it in summer. So I'm gonna have to reread this basically, and I have a sneaky feeling that I'm gonna like it better on a reread. I wasn't the biggest fan when I first read it, but now that I read a bit more like Brandon Sanderson, that's a bit more kind of plot heavy and war focused, that maybe I will enjoy this a little bit more. Because from what I remember, it was a lot of like battle strategy and that was kind of weighing it down for me and I couldn't really get past that. So I feel like I maybe will be able to handle this a lot more. And it's also, it's just so beautiful. Like, this is my favourite cover of all time. One of my favourite covers of all time. I'm not really sure. There's like armies, I remember. There's a girl in a cave at some point. There's like bandits maybe. I don't really know. But Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. I think there is a second one in the dual, like in the, is it a duology or a trilogy or a series? I don't know. This is the little like snippet on the inside and it says Legacy of Ash is an unmissable fantasy debut, an epic tale of intrigue and revolution, soldiers and assassins, ancient magic and the eternal clash of empires. This special limited edition hardback is signed by the author. Is it? So it is. Wow, I splashed out of this, didn't I? So then I really shouldn't be able to, I shouldn't get rid of this. So I need to finish this and I need to read it and love it, basically. So the next book is another cover buy that I bought because of the cover, but I also am intrigued by the storyline. The thing that's put me off is I've heard a few negative reviews from it since I bought it. So I'm not sure, like I think it is incredibly slow, not a lot happens, but I don't mind that. Like I quite like that sometimes in books. So whether or not it's the kind of slowness I will enjoy, I'm not sure. but it just made me a little bit hesitant to pick it up. But that is the Queens of Innisley by Tessa Gratton, and this is a retelling of King Lear by Macbeth, and it tells it about the queens, I'm assuming, so I think his daughters, his 3 daughters. And I know she has a second book that I think is another Shakespeare retelling, but this is just like an absolutely stunning cover. Like, look at that. It is a work of art, and I don't want to get rid of it just because I love it, but you know, I haven't read it, so need to read it. I also didn't know the storyline of King Lear before when I purchased this, so I kind of wanted to familiarise myself with that first. I actually saw my friend in a Shakespeare play at uni with playing Cordelia. Is it Cordelia? If that is one of them, that's the person that she played. But yes, as I said, I haven't read this, and I've had it since it came out, which was in only 2018. I thought I had this. I had this before I went to university. That will be 3 years this year. So definitely high time that I read this. The next book is one I also got in my first year. In my first year at university, and it came in a subscription box, I believe, and it is The Orphanage of the Gods, and I have not heard anyone talk about this, even though it was in a subscription box. I didn't have my channel at the time. I don't think I was very involved in my Instagram account, so that might be why I just missed the kind of bandwagon train. But this is by Helena Cogan, and it's about gods, I'm assuming, and it came in a box that was inspired by Strange the Dreamer and that kind of thing. Gods and Monsters, I think it was called, and I love Strange the Dreamer, so in theory I should like this. I don't know. I would like to think that I would, but I actually don't really know what it's about, and I haven't read any reviews. But my gosh, this girl wrote her first book at 13, had it published 2 years later, and it was named 2015's debut of the year by The Guardian and Amazon. That is talent. I'm 21 and still trying to write my first book, but wow, imagine being 15 and wow, she's my age. And this is her 3rd book. Okay, that makes me feel sad. So yes, this is one that I would like to read. It seems quite small. I think it's a YA fantasy. It's got nice sprayed edges, so I would be ashamed to get rid of this. I think it's slightly different to the normal cover as well, like the bluiness maybe on the cover. But I actually have no idea what this is, so it'll be interesting to dive into it and see what it's like. So the last book I have is one that I've had for, I'm gonna say, at least 5 years. At least 5 years. It's been out for much longer than that. 2012. This came out in 2012 apparently. And that is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This, is it a dystopian or a fantasy? I think it's a dystopian from the blurb. A mysterious disease has killed most of America's children. Dystopian. Ruby might have survived, but she and the others have emerged with something far worse than a virus, frightening abilities they cannot control. Dystopian fantasy? Pressured by the government, Ruby's parents send her to Thrummorn, a brutal state rehabilitation camp where she has learned to suppress her new power. But what if mastering it is a whole generation's only chance of survival? So this is a trilogy, judging from the back, and I feel like it was big in the heyday, big when it was out, and then I bought it then and then never read it, so then I kind of moved past it. Like, dystopians kind of petered out, didn't they? So I haven't read it, but this has been on my shelf for such a long time, and I feel like if I don't read this in the next year, there is no point in me keeping it anymore. It has to go, and I have to move on. I don't even know why I bought this actually. I don't think it even appealed to me at the start, but I think it must have been on discount on Book Depository or something, and I was just like, oh, I'll get that. I don't know. So this one, yeah, this one is definitely one that I will need to get rid of, and I probably would have got rid of it anyway if I hadn't read it. So we'll see if I actually read this one. So that is the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if there's any books on there that you've read and that you didn't like, or you did like, or you'd recommend, or you think I should prioritise on that list. If there are any books that you think are on your TBR that you think you should probably read or get rid of, because it's a problem that I have, and I think a lot of people have. So yes, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you would like to see more videos from me, please subscribe to my channel. That would be very much appreciated. And I hope you had a good day, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.